Once the phosphagen system is depleted, you have to recharge your ATP and your CP in order for it to fire well again. It's not an all or nothing scenario. If you think of a little bit like your phone battery, as you use it, it gets drained down. So as you're doing your sets, as you're doing that set, you'll be burning up that energy. You can take yourself to almost complete exhaustion, or you can just dip into a little bit and then use it again. And so the more severely you deplete it, the longer it's going to take. It's also not a guaranteed complete recharge. So if you just do that one super awesome set of 5, or if you really blast that like one massive deadlift, you can't automatically just repeat it again. So it can get pretty close to all the way up there, but it might even take like a day or two for it to have an absolute 100% recharge. Right? But ATP itself is going to usually take 3 to 5 minutes to get that near full recharge, where it's back up to 90, 95, maybe even 98% kind of levels. Creatine takes a little bit longer, so it takes about 5 to 8 minutes for creatine phosphate to get that near full recharge. Hopefully this makes some sense with the recommendations that you've heard. It's validating basic exercise science. And when you're training for strength, you typically do longer rests, at least 2 or 3 minutes normally, and sometimes 5 minutes, and maybe even a little bit more if necessary, because you want that absolute full recharge. And when you go in for maximum performance, it's worth it to have that long rest. And then something to kind of throw in there, when you do a full total blast where you're all psyched up and you do a full release, that sometimes takes 5 to 15 minutes to then recharge. And so that's why when you're in a meet and those flights, especially like if it's a small meet and you only have 6 or 7 lifters, encourage each lifter to take their time, because if they just race through, you may only be getting 4 or 5 minutes in between an attempt, and that's really not enough. You want to really be kind of pushing it and give yourself hopefully 10 minutes. You don't need much more than 15 minutes. People tend to start to cool down a little bit after that. And then the rest time needs to be relatively inactive. So if you're a powerlifter and you're like, okay, I'm doing squats, but I'm just resting, so I might as well go do push-ups, or I might as well do a bunch of jump rope. If your body is working, it won't allow the energy system to recharge as well. So really, for most of the stuff, if you want that full recovery, you pretty much just kind of need to sit on a bench, relax, chill. You can certainly stay focused, but you need to have that focus in there. But give yourself that good rest. So on your big sets, 2 to 5 minutes, again, being a classic. And if you think your performance will be better by resting longer, then go ahead and take that rest. All right? Only if you feel confident that you'll get it no matter what, then go ahead and go. Right? We don't need to waste time in the gym, but we're also not looking to to simply just blow through the workout, even if we start missing reps. Right? So strength is all about performance. Performance is about operating fresh. So that's our goal for that. Some expected adaptations when you train the phosphagen energy system. A lot of these are going to hopefully look pretty appealing to the strength athletes out there. One, we're going to have increased strength. This is our most powerful system. It's going to have increased power, so we're going to be able to generate that strength faster. We're going to have increased neuromuscular coordination, meaning you're going to learn how to use the muscles you have. You can get stronger without improving your muscle size by simply learning proper technique, how to fire them, all that good stuff. RFD is rate of force development, so you're going to improve your rate of force development, so all that strength and that contraction, you're going to be able to turn those things on faster. When you go heavy, you're going to improve bone density, so those bones are going to get stronger and healthier as well, and then heavy training is required to improve tendon and ligament density. So those would be some expected adaptations that we should have. However, this is not the end-all be-all, so it's not going to cause every positive adaptation in the body. So some things that are probably not going to be improved, when you take that super long rest, especially combined with low reps, probably not going to improve your VO2 max very much. That's your cardiovascular ability to do an activity. So that's not really going to help out. The sets are too short, so you don't get much lactate threshold in performance or increase either. Unless your exercise requires a high level of flexibility, this isn't really going to improve your flexibility very much. And with that long rest, it really doesn't train your recovery ability in between sets. So you're going to have to do some different kind of training if you're expecting to do multiple performances of essentially the same thing. Right? And then in terms of muscle size, you'll notice muscle size is not on there. It really kind of depends. For example, if you think about the Olympic weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting is super awesome, but honestly, one of the knocks there is they really don't build that much noticeable muscle in all populations because the time under tension is so low and because it's just a super immediate explosion and then a rest. Powerlifting certainly tends to build more muscle, both because the time under tension is longer, and then because of all the assistance work that powerlifters tend to do. But if you really just train pure phosphagen, so in other words, you just did jumping and sprinting and stuff like that, probably put on some muscle, but certainly that's not like a bodybuilder's preferred way of adding hypertrophy. So once you've built up some, then mainly you're learning how to use the muscle that you have. So if your goal is adding size, then you're probably going to need to modify that program a little bit as we go through. Now let's talk about the glycolysis energy system. So the word glycolysis there, you might recognize that or think of that. That has glucose or glycogen in it. And so that's definitely going to be involved with this energy system. We didn't mention glucose for the last one. And this is actually two subsystems. So it's two systems, kind of subsystems within the glycolysis energy system. And we're going to look at each one of those systems individually.